So, folks, I want to get to talking about this speech from John Ossoff. Now, John Ossoff is the only Democratic U.S. senator up for re-election in a state won by Donald Trump. So John Ossoff, by the conventional wisdom, is fighting an uphill battle, which may be the reason why he's showing a little bit more of a spine to fight Donald Trump this time around than he has in the past. And let's just take a listen to this. If we get bored, we'll stop. But I heard really good things about this speech that he delivered a couple days ago, and some of the excerpts were intriguing to me. So let's check it out.
Atlanta!
Down in Georgia, baby.
First of all, thank you to Elise Wade for that kind introduction. Give it up to Elise. Thank you, Elise. And thank you to all the volunteers and organizers who built this event, who will power us to victory in November. Thank you. Now, would every veteran, every military service member, every military spouse, please raise your hand and hold it high and be honored by all of us here today. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Atlanta. This election.
I do like how he's like, Atlanta. They're all like, yeah, that's us. That's where we live. What's up?
Is 9 months away. But the crowds I've seen over the last year at rallies like this one, the crowds every week in people's homes and backyards across our state as we organize and mobilize toward victory leave no doubt that Georgia is ready to do our part to save our republic again. We're ready.
That's the thing I'm curious about Hello Mello. John Ossoff has a reputation for being a pretty centrist type of guy. He's not considered a left-leaning politician in the Democratic Party. But I am wondering if he's a savvy kind of centrist, the kind who can read the wind, the political winds, and understand where he needs to go in order to be a successful politician. I'm curious about that because I feel like if this guy can read the wind, he might be able to chart a path for other centrists like Kathy Hochul, like Chuck Schumer, etc. Because what we really need to be seeing at the moment, what we really need to see are centrists like Chuck Schumer capitulating to pressure to be, abolish ICE, to do more than what Chuck Schumer is doing right now, which is helpless virtue signaling while possessing the power to stop a lot of what is happening.
Now, many of you are here because you just can't stand what's being done to our country. You're seeing what I'm seeing, right? The president posting about the Obamas like a Klansman at 1 a.m. You see our government transformed into a tool of one man's personal vengeance and power and enrichment.
I'm not going to lie, calling Donald Trump a Klansman in like the first minute of his speech, I like that. I'm not going to lie.
You see the president and his family rake in billions while Americans struggle to make ends meet. You see prices going up while jobs are getting harder to find. You see millions lose insurance and local hospitals shut services while the rich get tax cuts.
Yeah, he stole it from me, that's true.
You see masked federal agents kicking down doors without so much as a warrant from a judge, dragging Americans out of their homes, without cause, demanding papers at police checkpoints, assaulting and even killing Americans with impunity from the very top.
Schumer's electorally safe, yeah, but are other centrists like John Ossoff? You know, we've got centrists too, like Kathy Hochul, and Kathy Hochul has bent the knee effectively to Zoran Mamdani's entire slate of progressive reforms. Like, that's important. And seeing which way the wind is blowing for folks like John Ossoff, someone who is not as safe as Chuck Schumer, it's important. Gives us an idea of where things are going to go. And the mistake you're making is thinking that I believe Chuck Schumer operates in that way, which he doesn't. But a lot of other people in elected office do. And the entire goal is to have more Democrats who operate in favor of our policies than who operate in favor of Chuck Schumer's policies. Does that make sense? I fucking hope so.
You see the American government immediately slander the citizens it kills as terrorists. You see prison camps growing and full of children. More and more of your neighbors carry their passports to the store in case they're detained based on their accent or the color of their skin. The Justice Department and now even our intelligence agencies are openly politicized and turned against the president's enemies. It feels like every day the depravity deepens, the chaos accelerates, and deep down, maybe you fear whether our republic now in our 250th year can survive it all. But Atlanta, I'm here to tell you we will overcome this together. We will. We will. Because Atlanta, some people just happen to live at times and in places where history is made. And Atlanta, this year, once again, that's us. Once again, that's us. And it's not the first time the whole country's counting on us. So Atlanta, are you ready to fight? Atlanta, are you ready to win? There you go. This is what Now maybe you felt surrounded by darkness this last year. But Atlanta, the first light of dawn is on the horizon. Look at Texas. Look at Virginia. Look at New Jersey. Look here in Georgia. Look here in Georgia, where Democrats just won 2 statewide races by 25 points. Look at Minneapolis, where they organized to protect children from being kidnapped at school, where tens of thousands marched in protest, where nonviolent civil disobedience forced the tyrant to retreat. Atlanta, there's a wave building. And come November, the people who have been looting this country and desecrating our values are going to feel it. And here's the thing, Atlanta.
I will also say, John Ossoff has been doing some stuff. You know, like, he was instrumental in putting out a report on ICE abuses in custody and detention, and it finds over 1,000 cases of that. And I'm not here to tell you, like, John Ossoff is the balm and the solution to all of our problems. I'm genuinely here because I'm curious. I'm curious about what he is going to say as he tries to chart a path forward.
Atlanta, they know it. And they fear it. And that's why their abuses are becoming more reckless and desperate. But as long as we don't give in to doubt or despair or division, our victories will be so decisive that no half-baked plot hatched in the White House will foil the will of the people, Atlanta. The power of the presidency is nothing compared to the power of the American people. Atlanta, are you ready to win? Every day our wave grows taller, our tent grows bigger. All across Georgia, more and more people of every background and belief reject the chaos and corruption. It's not just Democrats and independents. Republicans take me aside or they call me on the phone. They tell me they're afraid of where this president has taken us and they don't want it to go on. They tell me they're voting for a Democrat for the first time. And it's no mystery why. This is the cruelest and most arrogant group of people who have ever ascended to high office in the United States. And their cruelty and their arrogance are matched only by their incompetence. The president said he'd bring down prices on day one. Instead, his tariffs keep driving prices higher and higher since he took office. Coffee's up 20%, ground beef and the power bill both up 13%, apples up 10%. I could go on, all in 1 year. Unemployment is rising too. Listen to this. American manufacturing jobs have shrunk nearly every single month since Trump rolled out his tariffs. Last month, more Americans lost their jobs than any January in 17 years. And while prices are going up and jobs are getting harder to find, they decided to let health insurance premiums double for more than 20 million Americans, including more than 1 million Georgians. 200,000 Georgians have already lost their insurance. I heard from a woman in her early 60s who waits tables for a living. She's fighting cancer. She told me she was going to lose her health coverage in the middle of chemotherapy. In the middle of chemotherapy. Now, you remember, we were told that MAGA was for working class Americans. You remember that? But this is a government of, by, and for the ultra-rich. It is the wealthiest cabinet ever. This is the Epstein class ruling our country.
Damn. He is speaking like Obama. You know, he's got the cadence down. Almost like a preacher type, you know? And, you know, that was... Obama had terrible policy positions and did terrible things as president, but he did have the whole speaking thing down. And I absolutely think that it is a great step forward that we have people openly attacking Donald Trump as an agent of the Epstein class, as an agent of the ultra wealthy and the ultra powerful. I mean, this is a guy who cut $1 trillion from Medicaid, a service that provides healthcare for the poorest and like most disadvantaged folk in the entire country, in order to give that $1 trillion to the wealthiest people in the form of tax cuts, and cut a bunch of everything else that support everyday working folk in order to fund the ICE expansion. It is absolutely beyond the pale disgusting. And so President Ossoff, I would not go so far. I want to hear what his policy positions are. What I'm seeing right now is excellent attack avenues, but I'm hearing very little on what he wants to do specifically. As far as I know, despite the fact that he was instrumental in an investigation that uncovered thousands, over 1,000 abuses of folks in ICE detention that effectively amount to torture, he has not yet called for ICE to be abolished, which is, I think, a huge failure of the moment. But that being said, he's bringing a fight, and I do like seeing a fight. Yeah, we do need to see more folks calling for ICE to be abolished, though.
They are the elites they pretend to hate. So prices are up, jobs are going away, Medicaid and school lunches are slashed, nursing homes are getting defunded. If you're Steve Bannon and your pitch was Trump for the forgotten man and woman, how do you sell any of this? Trump was supposed to fight for the working class. Instead, he's literally closing rural clinics and hospitals to cut taxes for George Soros and Elon Musk. He was supposed to end the globalist world police foreign policy. Instead, we're doing war for oil and nation building again and threatening to conquer Greenland. He was supposed to drain the swamp. Instead, this is the most corrupt administration of all time, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Listen to what Marjorie Taylor Greene just said about MAGA last week.
I will say, in John Ossoff's, to his credit, he does not accept campaign contributions from corporate PACs or federal lobbyists, but that's good, but call to abolish ICE. Like, there's no reforming this concentration camp system that you have helped investigate. God.
I'm serious. Marjorie said, quote, "I think people are realizing it was all a lie." Hold on, it gets better. Marjorie said, what MAGA is really serving in this administration, who they're really serving, is their big donors. Guys, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene talking. She went on. Marjorie said, quote, "The big donors that donated all the money and continue to donate to the president's PACs and are donating to the big ballroom, those are the people who get the special favors. They get the government contracts. They get the pardons." All true. Spot on. Marjorie, welcome to the resistance. It's a big tent. I think never in the history of corruption has so little effort gone into...
Yeah, we really don't need to invite Marjorie Taylor Greene in, even as like a kind of a wink and a nudge kind of joke, like a tongue-in-cheek statement. We really don't need to do that, though.
Hiding so much graft. There's the pardon factory. They're running out of DOJ donors and political allies straight to the front of the line. And then, of course, the president and his family's net worth has increased by billions since he took office. The president and his sons have been very busy taking money from foreign governments and foreign interests. Like there's Sheikh Tahnoun, national security advisor in the United Arab Emirates, who deposited $2 billion in Trump's crypto firm just after the administration granted his government access to the most sensitive American AI chips.
Yep.
There's Justin Sun, the Chinese crypto titan, under investigation by the SEC, who bought tens of millions of dollars of Trump coins just before that SEC investigation went away. Dar Global, the real estate fund tied to Saudi royals, has new Trump deals in 4 countries. The governments of Qatar and Oman are investing too. But Trump doesn't just want money from foreign governments. He wants money from the US government too. So our president is suing the United States for $10 billion. This is actually a thing he's doing. Did you see this? And if you're thinking, wait a minute, isn't that our tax dollars? The answer is yes. It is our tax dollars. Of course, the president isn't just looking out for himself. He's helping his friends and allies. Like, have you ever heard of a drug lord named Juan Orlando Hernandez? It's a wild story, because he used to be the president of Honduras. But a couple years ago, a federal judge here in the United States sentenced him to 45 years for conspiring to traffic hundreds of tons of cocaine into the United States. He had taken millions from the Sinaloa cartel and used the Honduran army and police to help them run drugs to America. And then Donald Trump pardoned him. Donald Trump pardoned a man who helped the cartels make billions of dollars trafficking vast amounts of cocaine into the United States. Donald Trump freed him because he was Donald Trump's political ally.
Part of the Epstein class, huh?
And because this guy sent a 4-page letter to Trump saying he was a better president than Biden. But then they will tell you with a straight face that the raid in Venezuela was about drugs. See, Maduro should have just sent Trump a check or sponsored the ballroom. By the way, Maduro's successor in Venezuela seems to have directed $500,000 to Trump's inauguration. Someone should probably look into that. The fact is, it pays to be friends with the president. It pays to kiss this president's ass. And if you really need something, you can always just pay the president. Whether you're a sheikh or a felon or a kingpin or a political donor, there's a buffet of corrupt options to curry favor with this administration. And yes, Donald Trump cut our health care so people like Elon Musk would pay lower taxes. But don't forget, he also cut our health care to fund the creation of a huge federal paramilitary force. Now look, there are still plenty of patriots serving our country in the US government and decent, hard-working folks in federal law enforcement trying to do the right thing every day. But this ain't that. And the American people are asking, why are roving gangs of masked men who look like they couldn't pass the Army physical exam dressed up like pretend Delta Force operators, wearing camouflage and carrying ARs on the streets of American cities, setting up checkpoints to harass commuters, demanding papers, dragging people screaming from their cars, and shooting people to death?
They ain't like us. Again, his rhetoric is so good. I want to know, implicitly he's setting himself up as the guy who is against all of these things, obviously, right? Like, explicitly setting himself as the guy who is against all of this, but like, there's no undoing what has happened to ICE. You don't just take all of these same guys, take their masks off, and then go, all right, it's solved. Go forth. Like that doesn't fly. I live in Minneapolis, the same place he was glazing earlier, and I can tell you, folks here do not want to save anything related to ICE. ICE should be burned to the ground politically. Like, it should not exist anymore. It should be abolished, along with DHS. There's no compelling reason to keep this around. We do not need it. What we need are like 1,000 bureaucrats with well-paid jobs who sit around and send emails and letters to folks with fines. Like, that's it. That's all you need to do. Give like some paperwork that creates a pathway to citizenship. That's it. That's all you need to do. You just need you could replace the concentration camps. You could replace like the roving gangs of masked men. You could replace all of it with with 1,000 bureaucrats. It doesn't have to be this way. Instead of paying 10,000 men with guns and building concentration camps, just pay 1,000 bureaucrats with like laptops.
They don't have to identify themselves. They don't have to explain why you've been stopped. Film them and they tell you you've been added to a terrorist watch list. A Republican congressman running for Senate in Texas said, quote, "When a federal officer gives you instructions," he said, "you abide by them and you get to keep your life." Obey the federal government, they tell us, or die. What happened to "don't tread on me"? And by the way, if you're carrying a firearm, the Trump administration said they have license to kill you. Are there any principled constitutional conservatives left in the United States? Because it's not just the Department of Homeland Security, but shredding our Bill of Rights. The administration is fast corrupting the Justice Department and even our intelligence agencies. And yes, they are laying the groundwork for mischief in the upcoming elections. The president said we'd never need to vote again. Then he said we shouldn't have elections. Now he says he wants to take over the elections. And like a scene out of some banana republic, Tulsi Gabbard, the country's spy chief, comes to Fulton County, Georgia, to oversee the seizure of ballots. Your ballots. Tulsi said the president asked her to go, which means the president is personally managing federal raids on election sites in battleground states, all in service of his obsession with overturning the 2020 election and laying the groundwork for whatever they're plotting this year. But they made a big mistake, Atlanta. They came to Fulton County, Georgia. They came to the political and spiritual heart of the civil rights movement. They came to the doorstep of John Lewis's congressional district. And as a result, we are going to mobilize the biggest and most unstoppable turnout in state history. Are you ready to vote, Atlanta? Say vote. Say vote. Say vote. Tell you what, you know what would make Tulsi Gabbard really mad? Are you ready to take your first action right now, all of us together, to get out the vote? Are you ready? Okay, listen, I want you to take out your phones. We're gonna do this together. If you're looking for something to do, this is something we can do right now. I want you to take out your phones. You got them? Hold them up, let me see them. All right. New text message. Hold the phone up when you got the new text message open. Okay, listen. You are going to text JOIN to 51015. I'll tell you again. The number is 51015. 51015. Everybody watching online, it's 51015. Text JOIN. Done. All right, you got it? Hold that phone up when you're done. There you go. Atlanta, say vote. Vote. Say vote. Vote. Now look, defeating Donald Trump and his allies is essential, but it's only part of the job ahead. Because Donald Trump is a symptom of a deeper disease. Decades of deepening political corruption, growing inequality of power and wealth. These are the failures of an ancient and visionless political class entrenched in a system built to keep them in office forever. Members of Congress who just sit idly in their seats, collecting lobbyist checks, trading stocks, saying whatever the polls tell them to. And on their watch, the national spirit that defeated fascism, that landed men on the moon, that passed civil rights laws, was replaced by a small and selfish politics. The politics of legalized corruption defined by corporate PACs and bundlers and lobbyists. It's a system designed to serve donors and protect incumbents. And then Citizens United came along. The worst court decision in modern American history, flooding the airwaves with ads paid for by secret donors who bankroll both parties. All of this bent Congress to serve the powerful and forget the people. And that's why you still pay a fortune for prescriptions. That's why your insurance company gets to keep denying your claim. That's why hedge funds get to buy up all the houses in your neighborhood. That's why that ambulance costs $3,000 after you just had to get a choking toddler to the hospital. Our democracy stopped serving the public, and the public lost faith in a system that was failing them.
And I guess, like, this is ultimately, like, what he's putting forward here. If he's not going to talk about, at least in this speech, what he is actually running for, like what positions he is going to adopt, what he is going to do, what policies he will champion, really what this speech winds up being about is setting the narrative for the us versus them, tableau that will play out, right? What we're gonna see is that he is specifically trying to set up himself as a champion of the working folk who is going to take on the Washington elites, the Epstein class, specifically the Donald Trumps, right? And like, that's not a bad strategy. It's just, and frankly, it's probably going to work out for him in this particular case. His track record is not that impressive. I wish he would just say abolish ICE. We're not going to get that from a lot of the folks that we would want to say it, unfortunately. A lot of them are too scared.
But it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. Everywhere I go across our state, people tell me they are desperate for change and for new ideas. The South Georgia farmer whose costs rise and earnings fall each year, whose kids have left the family farm, who's still waiting for federal aid long after the storm. The student working through college who still needs food stamps to make rent, whose conscience can't stand their tax dollars being used to lock up immigrant children here at home or kill innocent children in the Middle East. The young couple expecting their first child who wonder how they'll afford a crib and a stroller, let alone a first home. And their health insurance just went up $1,000 a month. There are so many problems we should be solving together. Guaranteeing all Americans great health insurance and great health care no matter our wealth. Unleashing an affordable housing boom, saving our family farms, making America the world's human rights leader. It should excite us to imagine what's possible. But none of us will be possible if we forget what America stands for. See, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Stephen Miller, they offer a small, closed, menacing vision of America defined by fear and scarcity and exclusion. They imitate the blood and soil rhetoric of history's worst regimes. Immigrants, Donald Trump says, are poisoning the blood of our country. Those are the kinds of words used by the most dangerous men in history. I listened to a speech a few months back by a senator from Missouri who's aligned with the president, and I think what I heard him say was that the only real Americans are those descended from the original European settlers. Now maybe he forgot the Mayflower itself was full of religious exiles fleeing persecution. But our heritage isn't limited to that of the Pilgrims and those who settled the West. America's heritage includes the descendants of slaves who won liberation from slavery and Jim Crow. It includes the Creek Indians who lived in Middle Georgia for 11 centuries straight. It includes immigrants from every region and continent who arrived here fleeing persecution or seeking opportunity. Americans are not a race. We're a people. United not by ethnicity, but by shared convictions, and that is what makes us exceptional and a beacon to the world. How amazing is it that the most powerful nation on earth proclaims as its core values that all are created equal, with inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, no matter how humble our beginnings, no matter our ancestry, no matter when we arrived on these shores. George Washington wrote in 1783, "America is open to receive not only the opulent and respectable stranger, but the oppressed and persecuted of all nations and religions." 1783. Atlanta, that's a legacy worth protecting. And I was thinking the other day, what would the founders think if they visited us today? Well, they would see that slavery had been abolished. They would see that Americans without land, and then women, and then the descendants of slaves had secured voting rights. That American leadership in science and discovery had propelled knowledge and technology to unimaginable heights. They would see that the United States had become the superpower that defeated Nazism and communism. They would see a pluralist democracy, people of all colors descended from every point on earth, stitched together out of many nations into one, still the greatest hope for mankind. But they would also learn that of the world's great rich nations, American life expectancy is the lowest, while our childhood poverty, murder, and maternal mortality rates are the highest. They would see a nation that at the height of its wealth and power fell into the very traps they most feared, the dominance of special interests, bitter division between warring political parties, and a faithless president exploiting that rot to pursue the absolute power they overthrew. But they gave us the tools to fix this. They put the power in our hands. It's up to us, Atlanta. It's up to us. This is a turning point for the United States. History is calling the question, what kind of a people are we? I believe the measure of our success is not how many of the poorest and most vulnerable families we hunt down and shackle and imprison and deport. The measure of our success is whether each generation achieves greater health and prosperity than the last, and whether we live up to the promise of equal justice for all. I believe we can lift American children out of poverty. We can keep our communities safe from violence. We can make sure every mom and every baby in America gets the best care in the world. I believe we can reform our corrupt politics. We can unite the American people to solve big problems and achieve great things again. I believe we will escape this moral tailspin.
Tech nerd.
And recommit ourselves to the values that have powered 250 years of progress. But none of this is possible without victory this November. And the battle is already on. So Atlanta, are you ready to work?
All right, we're basically done. So I just have to say, one, the interesting thing that I get out of this is an almost complete lack of content regarding policy and his prescription to solve the problems, right? Like, okay, we can all agree ice is a problem, but if your solution is give them ice creams and maybe it will make them nicer, well, that's not really a very actionable solution, right? Like, we need actionable solutions that will solve the problem in a actual meaningful way. And in a similar way, like, okay, like, what do you want to do for healthcare costs? Is it restore Medicaid funding? Is it a Medicare for all? Like, what kind of solution are you trying to pursue? And like, additionally, like, part of the problem here is, like, historically, John Ossoff has been very much a fence sitter when it comes to, like, issues like Gaza, for example. And, like, he's gotten a lot of material support over the years from J Street, which is, like, a little bit less extreme than AIPAC, perhaps, but, like, it's still liberal Zionist group. Like, they are there to fund folks who are pro-Israel. And I know I'm being very generous, but, like, there's a lot of not great things going on here with John Ossoff, and I guess the important thing, the one takeaway we can actually take away from this is that this is where centrist Dems are at. You know, a relatively a safe lack of content while trying to position themselves as against the Trump administration, which I think in this case he did very well. Like, he's field testing some solid strats to that other Dems are certainly going to take note of. I imagine over the next few weeks the Epstein class is going to become ingrained in Chuck Schumer's vocabulary, for example. What's interesting to me is that there's an element here of setting a narrative that we might see other centrists try and follow, which is more pugilistic, right? And that is important because a lot of centrist Dems, like Chuck Schumer, have been extremely hesitant to try and fight. In kind of the colloquial behind the scenes terms, like, you got two teams right now in Washington, D.C. in the Democrats. You got Team Fight and you got Team Hand Ring, you know? And Team Fight needs more guys. That we need more people to be willing to fight the Trump administration. Just like, full stop, end of story. You need to be willing to fight these guys. And that is a step in the right direction. And it indicates where the pressure has brought centrist Dems. That being said, the pressure so far has been insufficient to instill actionable positions among these folks. Because presumably he thinks, like, Donald Trump meddling in Fulton County's elections is bad. What are you proposing to do about it? Right? Like, it's not enough to simply be willing to fight and throw down. You have to be fighting for something, right? And, like, because again, if you're not fighting for something in politics and you're just fighting against something, what happens when you win that fight? Well, then presumably the agenda that you have not put any time and thought into or mobilized anyone around gets to be set by someone else. You know, there is a benefit specifically for donors when no agenda is set and everyone is mobilized merely to fight. And it is that then the donors get to insert whatever policy positions folks are interested in. And by folks, I mean, you know, the folks who paid them to lobby are interested in. The companies, the bigwigs, the, dare I say it, Epstein class. And this is the thing. This is the entire danger of rhetoric that is so effective like this, that does not stake out a coherent, like, policy position in any of the venues in which he brings up. And it's that it allows for money to come in and manufacture whatever position is adopted after the fight is won. And that's really dangerous. It's really dangerous, and it is what has allowed, like, the Epstein class and these conservatives to effectively shift the Overton window to the right for so long. And it's because a lot of the same folks who fund Republicans also spend money on Democrats. And so all that needs to happen at that point is for these ultra wealthy folks, through, whatever lobbying group or, a branch that they insidiously want to insert there, like, all that has to happen is for them to spend some money after the fight has been won by Democrats, and voila. If it is sufficiently vacuous enough, well, something can be used to fill that vacuum. And I'm gonna just come right out and say, I think also silence when it comes to issues like Gaza is gonna be another one of those things that going into the midterms and the general election is going to be absolutely, like, devastating. Like, you cannot do that in a post 2024 world. You just can't. Like, as a reality, as a politician, like, if you're a Democrat, you want to run on, you're going to run on being silent on Gaza? Insane. I'm surprised MAGA isn't walking around with shirts that say Epstein classy or something like that. Give it time, JFO, because folks like Nick Fuentes are already selling Epstein polos. And I'm not joking. Certain conservative elements within MAGA are already pivoting to try and rehabilitate Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not kidding either. We went and found it on his website the other day. Yeah, it's really, really gross. Yeah, I think I have to be honest. I'm thinking that Ossoff might just be a more talented Newsom, though maybe more open to wiggling towards the left. But I guess we'll have to see. My hope is that as pressure mounts, more leftist positions and policies will be. We need to get rid of any trace of Bush's
legacy, so we need to push removing ICE.
Absolutely, Space and Goats. Abolishing ICE is the compromise position. I guess just like we need to put more pressure on these politicians and these mainstream political figures so that they can finally plant their flag on some policy positions that are on the left. And it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen. One of the easiest ways to do that, guys, is to get involved with your local politics, okay? So join your local Dems and radicalize them, make them more progressive, and join your local DSA and make them more effective, okay? Do both if you can. And if you need help doing it, join our Discord, reach out to Gamergy for help with your DSA, reach out to Dragonfly for help with your local Dems. And also, folks, let me know what you think about all this. It can be incredibly frustrating to listen to a speech that had, like, some genuinely banger lines. Talking about the Epstein class and painting MAGA as the party of the Epstein class. That is extremely effective and I think is going to stick. But it's frustrating hearing that and vibing with it and then having no other, like, policy positions really staked out except constant finger pointing of this is bad and this is bad and this is bad. But those aren't, like, just pointing out something is bad is not a policy position. You got to do more. Yeah, also, Ossoff talks a big game, but his voting record is not great. I have a feeling that Ossoff's voting record is going to play over well in Georgia, though, because he votes for a lot of things that do directly benefit his constituents. All that being said, folks, let me know what you think down in the comments. Hit the subscribe button, like, and also please consider checking out ImogeneOlivia.com, gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes. Tested on with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. It is non-tucking lingerie, very comfortable. New sizes, styles, and colors are coming soon. Check it out. Link down in the doobly-doo. And let's keep on going.
Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, Bane, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.